I'm Sarah, a 29-year-old woman, and I've just recently gotten divorced. It happened because my husband, or rather ex-husband, was a cheating douchebag. But the way I found out was not the way I thought it would go. There was something good that came out of it, at least. But let me first tell you about how we met. I met Gavin at a bar. He happened to be there for some work-related party. He was the one that approached me, and he pretty much kept me company the entire night. I must admit that I was very insecure about myself, so to get that much attention from a man was nothing short of an ego boost. Anyway, after we met for the first time, we went out on a couple of dates. I found out that he was 6 years older than me, but I didn't mind that because I had always had a thing for older men. He was also surprisingly a lot more charming than he was at the bar. We went on multiple dates until we decided we wanted to make our relationship official. Before I continue, I should tell you that my big dream has always been to own my own place. My parents lived way too far away for me to live with them, and I didn't want to always live on a lease. My parents helped me with half the down payment while I worked my butt off for the other half. Anyways, Gavin and I dated for around 2 years before we decided to tie the knot. Our wedding was a pretty small affair, with our guests being only our closest friends and family, and we loved every bit of it. Our relationship thrived after we got married. Never in a million years had I thought that Gavin was thinking of or even capable of cheating on me. Another thing I do want to say is that Gavin's mother, Eleanor, and I had a really good relationship. She always told me that I was like the daughter she never had. Every time I went over, I was pampered senseless by her. It was even more amazing to have her as a mother-in-law because she helped me feel better about the distance I had between my parents. She made me feel like I still had my mom with me. So when I finally had saved up enough to pay the down payment for a house, and I did purchase a house, the first people I celebrated my milestone with were Gavin and Eleanor. Both of them were really happy for me, and I was glad I had good people by my side. The only weird thing that happened was Gavin being adamant about being the one to create copies of the house keys. I didn't think much of it because I just thought that Gavin wanted to lighten my workload or something. I don't know, it's dumb, but that's just how I rationalized it. The next year, Gavin and I lived blissfully. We had a whole house that we could decorate and design however we wanted to. Gavin and I took up several renovation projects that I thought brought us only closer because it entailed spending a lot of time together. Essentially, I thought our relationship was going great. And then, one day, Eleanor called me out of the blue. "Hi, Sarah." "Hey, Eleanor, what's up? Why the sudden call?" I don't know how to put this nicely. I have some rather shocking news. Do you think you could be seated for this?" "Seated? What's wrong? Are you okay?" Yes, I'm okay. I just know this will devastate you, and I need you to not hurt yourself." "Eleanor, you're scaring me. What's going on?" "Okay, so I happened to overhear Gavin talking to someone on the phone the other day when you guys were over for brunch. He seemed to be speaking very lovey-dovey with them. I knew it couldn't have been you because, well, why would you guys speak on the phone when you were in the same place?" "Oh, well, I started snooping through his stuff. I know it's not right, but I just didn't want my son to be a cheater. I made up some stupid excuse and managed to get access to his email. I managed to find out that he has been cheating on you with 2 other women." "What? How? How could he do this to me?" "I'm so sorry that this is happening to you. I know it's barely any consolation, but I'm super ashamed of Gavin. I'm just so broken right now. Why would he do something like this? Wasn't I enough for him? He had to go and cheat with not 1 but 2 other women?" Oh, honey, that's not the case at all. No one deserves this, and neither do you. But I'm afraid it does get a little worse. What could possibly make this situation any worse? Well, it turns out that Gavin made copies of your house keys and gave them to his affair partners. My world was spinning around me. What was going on? I wanted to yell at Eleanor. No, that was not right. I was angry, but I was not angry at her. I was angry at Gavin for ruining something so perfect and to defile my house in such a manner. I wanted to obliterate him. This was the last thing I had expected from him. He knew how hard I worked to own my own place. How dare he do that to me? A million thoughts raced through my head. I didn't know how to feel because my emotions were a mess too. Nothing was making sense, and in all seriousness, I wanted to talk to Gavin about this and see what he had to say. There was no doubt in my mind that Eleanor was lying to me. Eleanor loved me way too much to do that to me. If anything, it was because she loved me that she was telling me about her cheating son itself. Sarah, darling, are you there? Oh yeah, I'm here. Sorry, I'm just processing everything. I don't know what I have to do or even what I want to do. I'm just so angry and hurt. I may have an idea if you're up to it. Oh, what is it? What if we take a little revenge on Gavin? Then you can divorce him and leave him in the streets for all I care. I love it. I'm fully on board with it. Also, I actually contacted these two girls. Turns out neither of them knew of the other, and they definitely had no idea that he was married too. So that scumbag was cheating on 3 people at once? That's a new low even for him. Yeah. So I was wondering if you'd be okay with letting these girls in on our little revenge plan. You know what? That's perfect. Gavin has a weekend business trip this weekend to the other side of the city. At least I hope it is. I cross-checked with both of them, and neither of them has any plans with him anytime soon. Great. I'm hoping there isn't another mistress, but invite the other 2 over and we'll discuss the plan. Eleanor and I talked for a little while more. She could tell I really needed a shoulder to cry on, although I hadn't yet begun to cry. I guess my brain was still in shock and I was going to take some time to react, or I was just completely numb by the new information. Either way, I was still a mess. My emotions kept shifting from anger to sadness to hurt. Eleanor helped calm me down a little. She also helped me figure out how to treat Gavin normally until his business trip. I knew it would be a hassle. If I was this unstable with Eleanor, how would I maintain my composure in front of Gavin? At the same time, deep down inside, I knew I had to do it because I had to make Gavin feel the panic and pain I had felt. When Gavin got back from work that evening, I treated him like I always did. Whenever he smiled or laughed, I wanted to punch him. When he kissed me goodnight, I wanted to wash my mouth off with acid. I was hurting so deeply that I didn't think I could actually ever feel that way. How could he cheat on me and then treat me like I was the most important person to him in the world? I cried myself to sleep that night, but I woke up the next morning and made myself look better. I couldn't let Gavin know that something was wrong. I bid him goodbye as usual. Eleanor called and asked if she and the girls could come over. I said they could, and within an hour all 3 of them were over at my place. When I saw the girls, I was kind of taken aback. Both of these women were young. One of them looked dangerously young. At that moment, I only hoped that she was legal and Gavin hadn't committed a crime. Eleanor greeted me with a tight hug. She was tearing up, and it took everything in me to not break down too. I invited them all in, and we sat down on the couch to talk about how things turned out for us. The first thing I found out about these girls was that one of them was named Riley and the other was Sadie. Sadie was the one who looked dangerously young, but my fears were calmed down when she told me she was 23 years old, while Riley was 25. Honestly, it wasn't great to hear that Gavin was having an affair with a woman who was a good 12 years younger than him. I found out that he had been having an affair with Riley for about a year, which meant that it started right around after we got married. That stung. He hadn't been happy with me since the first year of our marriage. What had I ever done or not done in this case, I guess? Riley had met Gavin at a bar, and apparently he was very persuasive about wanting to sleep with her. Sadie had a similar story, except his affair with her started 6 months ago. He had met her at a bar too and persuaded her into sleeping with him. He had bought both of them multiple drinks and refused to leave their side. They were a little uncomfortable, but I guess Gavin had a knack for finding insecure women. These poor women were entranced by all the attention they were getting, so they just followed along with him. Both of them thought they had found something amazing with him after their first interaction. They told me about how he had been over to their places multiple times and even spent nights there. Over the course of the conversation, we began to slowly realize just how well Gavin had played us. He used the excuse of business trips all the time to explain his time away from us. Then we began talking about all the things that he did to make us fall for him in the first place. Since I had been the oldest of the three of us, I started telling them about how he had been super charming and how he was a great listener. They agreed with me. As the conversation went on, we realized that he literally used the same moves on all of us. If any one of us received flowers, the other two received them as well. I don't know what he was trying to accomplish with that, but I felt like I was about to throw up. All this time that I thought we were doing amazingly, we weren't. Every time he made me feel special, like I was the only woman in his eyes, I was not. I was just one of the ladies on his roster. I felt beyond betrayed. Riley and Sadie looked pale, and I figured I did too. We kind of just sat in silence for a while as we processed everything we had learned. Eleanor was the one to break the silence and bring us back to earth. Wow, okay, so my son is the scum of the earth, but we're not here to discuss that. Eleanor? No, I get it. I know you guys are hurt and you feel betrayed. I may not have the same relationship with my son, but to an extent, I feel those emotions too. I mean, at some point, I feel like I failed as a parent. You are and were an amazing parent. You raised him with good values, but at the end of the day, it was his decision to make these choices. He's a grown adult who's capable of making his own decisions. Thanks, sweetie. But my point is, what are we going to do about this? To be completely honest, I want to beat him up. I can't believe I wasted an entire year on this douchebag. I second the beating him up. Cheating is the one thing that I can't stand. Look, I want to do the same, but that won't do him any good. Sarah's right. We need to come up with a plan. We're going to need him to feel panic and betrayal. Okay. How about I call him this weekend and tell him I'm at your place? Oh, I could do the same. Yeah, and since he'll be away, he'll be panicking about our meeting. And what if he does manage to make it back home that night? We'll just be sitting inside, home, and looking like we're the best of friends. That's smart. That will definitely make him sweat even more. Yeah, then you can slap him with the divorce papers and we can, well, slap him if we feel like it. I won't stop you guys from doing that. And if it's any consolation, we signed a prenup. So when we get divorced, he'll literally have nothing. That makes me feel really good. He deserves nothing, and I'm glad he'll get what he deserves. Good. Now we have a plan in place. Sarah, Let's get your divorce filed and then we'll work out the rest of the plan. We still had about 2 days till Gavin's trip. I don't know where I got my self-control or my patience from, but I was grateful that I had found it. I managed to keep the act up regardless of every instinct I had to confront him. I stopped crying because, as messed up as it seemed, I guess it felt a little nice to know that I wasn't in this all alone. There were other women who were hurt too, and if not for myself, I knew I needed to avenge these women. Riley, Sadie, Eleanor, and I had created a group chat. We kept each other updated there. I wasn't worried about Gavin snooping through my phone because he had never shown any interest in anything I ever did, which I now realize might have been because he was too busy cheating on me. Anyways, whenever Gavin left for work, Eleanor would come over and we'd go to the law firm and get the divorce filed and the papers printed. By the time it was time for Gavin's trip, everything had been set up. Sadie, Riley, and Eleanor came over about an hour after Gavin left. We all kind of just hung out and talked about how we were feeling. The girls shared the same sentiment of not feeling alone in all of this with me. I was glad that we all felt connected in some weird, messed up way. Eleanor lent us a solid shoulder to cry on. I knew she was hurting too, but I was glad that she never put her hurt over ours, and that she recognized the difference between our hurt. I waited until Gavin texted me another hour later that he reached his location to give Riley the go. She then picked up her phone and called Gavin. She had the phone on speakerphone. Gavin sounded pleasantly surprised to see her call him. Riley acted all excited and told him that she was coming over in half an hour because she had a surprise for him. Gavin sounded a little frantic. He kept trying to convince her not to go, but Riley was adamant and told him that she would be there before hanging up. Sadie waited about 15 minutes before she called Gavin. Unlike when Riley called, Gavin sounded snappy when he picked up Sadie's call. He asked her what she wanted and she replied that she was 15 minutes away from the house. She told him that she would wait for him inside. If Gavin was just a little frantic before, now he was fully panicking. He once again tried to tell Sadie that he was out of town and asked her not to go there, but Sadie told him she walked long enough and she was tired and she just wanted to rest. She hung up the phone on him before he could get a word in. I have to admit, I felt this huge rush of adrenaline after this. Just the thought of how much Gavin must have been panicking sent a rush of happiness and satisfaction all throughout my body. I couldn't wait to see his face when he got back. Since the big part of our plan was done, we decided to make ourselves some drinks to make what was about to happen even more entertaining. When the drinks began to kick in a little, we all couldn't help but laugh at how stupid Gavin was to give both of them copies of the keys to my house, especially when I literally worked from home. Somehow and somewhere along that time that we waited for Gavin to return, we began to heal a little. We began to see the truth and accept the reality of Gavin, and it felt refreshing. About 2 hours after we had called Gavin, we heard his car pull up in the driveway. By that point, we were pretty tipsy and unable to contain our excitement. Eleanor had been the one who reminded us that we needed to act well. We put on our best sober faces and readied ourselves to face Gavin and tear him down. Gavin quite literally burst through the door. "Babe, Oh! What's going on here?" "Oh, I invited your mom over." "Yeah, that's cool, but what about the other people here?" "Them? These lovely women showed up at my place and they seem to know you, so I invited them in." "You never told me that you had such a pretty wife." "Me either." "Right, maybe it's time you leave." "Don't be rude, Gavin. I taught you better. Besides, we were having a girls' night. Why are you here?" "Yeah, why are you here? I thought you were away on a business trip." "A business trip? Is that why you couldn't spend time with me this weekend, even though we always spend time together every third weekend?" Oh my God, he does that with you too. Me too. Look, guys, no, don't want to hear anything. I just want you out of my house. That's when I saw Gavin cry for the first time. He began crying and begging me not to leave him. The sight of him sobbing surprisingly did not make me feel any sympathy. It only made me feel even more disgusted. I didn't say anything much to him. I just got up and handed him the divorce papers. Gavin was a mess. He turned to his mother, but Eleanor just looked away. He tried to appeal to her, but she told him that he was dead to her. He truly looked like a man who had lost it all, and no sight was as satisfying as that. Riley and Sadie didn't slap him, but they did throw the copies of the house keys he had given them in his face and left. I had a bag packed and ready for him to take. I got it out and threw it at him. I told him he had 5 minutes to leave or I would get the cops involved. He left after that. I just sat down after that and finally cried again. This time Eleanor held me and both of us cried at the loss of someone who was so dear to us. An hour after Gavin left, my phone began to blow up with calls and messages from him. Every single text only made him seem more pathetic to me. In the next few months, my divorce would be finalized. Eleanor was a true rock for me in that time. Gavin's desperation turned into spite and he tried his hardest to contest the divorce and get something from me, but I had him sign an ironclad prenup before we got married, so he got nothing out of the divorce other than a large bill to his lawyer. Anyway, I didn't really keep tabs on what happened to him, and neither did Eleanor. The one positive thing that came out of this whole experience was the new friends I made. After the divorce got finalized, Riley, Sadie, and I went out to a bar to party as a final screw you to Gavin. We got a lot closer, and even though it's still a bit of a sore subject, we managed to find the humor in our shared experience. I guess the experience just showed me how life can take so many unexpected turns, but if you have the right people by your side, every unexpected turn can lead to something beautiful. Hello guys, I'm Ava and this name is fake. Sorry, but some details of my story involve sensitive information, so I don't want to use real names. It's been a while since these incidents have happened. It's almost been a year. I have since moved on and am trying to rebuild my life. But since I don't have a lot of people close to me, I needed to share my story somewhere. I guessed that you guys would be the perfect ones to share this with. My story is not about my mother-in-law. I never had a chance to meet my mother-in-law since my husband James grew up with his childless uncle and aunt. His parents died when he was young. James and I connected a lot on this fact. I too lost my parents when I was young, but I had a twin sister, Anna, unlike James, who was a single child. While James had a strong support system with his aunt and uncle, I didn't have that. My grandma looked after me and Anna, but wasn't very present for us. Anna, my twin, was always a bully to me, and my grandma never stopped her. Anna tormented me regularly to prove that she was the better twin. I often questioned her as to why she was so mean to me after she betrayed me by sleeping with my first boyfriend. I said, "Why do you hurt me so much, Anna? You have always been abusive towards me when we were children. Now you are going after every boy I like and sleeping with them. Hell, you destroyed my first ever relationship. Why do you do this? I hate you, Ava. I can't stand the fact that there is someone who looks like me. I want you to remember that even though we are twins, I am the better one. That's why every boy chose me over you. You are nothing but a cheap copy of me." How can you be so cruel to your own sister, Anna? I'm your family. I love you. I never hold grudges, but you just refuse to change. How long will you continue to torment me? Anna didn't answer and simply laughed at me while I cried my eyes out. She never stopped. She went on to steal all the boyfriends I had and the men I liked. The only one she couldn't steal was my husband. Actually, I was so scared of introducing James to her that I didn't do it until we were engaged. My fears were not unfounded. Anna started to hit on James from the first day itself. Thankfully, James ignored her. To be honest, Anna is a big pick-me girl. That's why she doesn't have a lot of friends and never has meaningful relationships. Plus, she was busy going after my guys to find a man for herself. Anyway, since James ignored her and kept her at bay, I thought that I had finally found a loyal man. Well, I was wrong. James and I got married and lived comfortably for 2 years. Now, this was probably because my evil twin sister was working in another city back then. But as soon as she was back, there were problems. She started to send inappropriate texts to James and even tried to go out with him without me. James had a hard time sidestepping her. I called her up numerous times to warn her and put some sense into her. I said, "Anne, you need to stop being so freaking desperate. James is already tired of your shit, and so am I. You need to stop trying to mess with James. He won't give in like the other men I was with." "What's the matter, sis? Are you scared or something?" "I'm just trying to be friendly with James. It's not my fault that he keeps thinking of it inappropriately. I guess James is not as invested in you as you thought." "I have seen your texts. And you were downright provocative, Anna. You sent him inappropriate texts. There was nothing innocent about it. Don't make my life difficult, Anna. I'm trying hard not to cut you off." To be honest, James had told me numerous times to cut her off. I didn't have much contact with her except the occasional hellos and stuff. Going no contact was not an option for me. She was the only family left since my grandma died when I was in college. I didn't want to abandon her. She was my sister after all. I guess that was my biggest mistake. I should have gotten rid of her sooner. The major incident with Anna happened at a friend's anniversary party. At that time, James and I were going through a big marital problem that I will reveal later. The problem was so bad that I was considering divorce. James was trying his best to change my mind. Despite having a bad time, we still went to the party because of prior commitments. My sister Anna was also invited since they worked together in the same place. I really wasn't in the mood to see Anna, especially because she started to annoy me as soon as I arrived. She said, "I see that you and James are sitting separately. Something up, sis? Is your skill to keep your man finally running out?" "My marriage is none of your business, Anna. I suggest you keep your thoughts to yourself. I would also suggest staying away from me since I am not in the mood to listen to you." "Ah, I get it. You must be jealous because James and I were talking quite a bit a few minutes ago. What can I do, Ava? I'm charming that way. Even James is slowly losing his control." I didn't have the mood to even correct her stupid assumptions. I moved away from her and went to a different part of the house. The friend had a huge place with a big lawn, so I had plenty of space to avoid Anna. Plus, a lot of people were invited, so it was easy to avoid my sister. After an hour, I really wanted to go home. I saw that James was busy talking to his friend, so I informed the host and went home alone. He promised to drive James home since James was drinking and he wasn't. Here is when things became strange. Our friend brought James home well past midnight. He was passed out, so the friend brought him inside and laid him on the couch. I was surprised because James never drank to the point of passing out. Anyway, I let him sleep while I went upstairs. The next morning, Anna gave me a surprise visit. I was shocked and confused as to why she was there. She came into the living room while I said, "What are you doing so bright and early, Anna? Don't you have to go to work?" "I do have to go to work, Ava, but I needed to check up on James first." "He is fine, as you can see. He was just a little drunk. I don't understand why you needed to show up in person when you could have just called me." While I was busy racking my head for a motive, Anna was smirking at me. Hearing us talk, James finally woke up and came to see what was going on. As soon as Anna saw him, she walked up to him and hugged him. James was surprised and didn't even hug back. Immediately, I was suspicious about what was going on. Anna never hugged James like that and looked pretty inappropriate. James didn't push her because I guess he was just surprised. It was then that Anna decided to open her mouth. She said, "Hey James, how are you? I'm sure you had an amazing experience last night. I am truly happy with the outcome of what happened yesterday." "What are you talking about, Anna? I don't understand. You were not with us last night. I didn't even understand what you were saying." When James said this, Anna decided to have the most ridiculous expression on her face. It was a mixture of fake shock and sadness. She somehow managed to look like the poor little girl that she portrayed herself to be. She said in a heavy voice, "You don't remember last night? It was an amazing experience, but I'm sad that we would have to reveal this to Ava. I am sure she would be devastated and would lash out at us." "What are you even talking about? What is so bad that it will leave me devastated?" "It's just that James slept with me, Ava. He told me that you love me and whatnot. After you left the party early, we decided to hang out and then ended up sleeping together. We really didn't mean for it to happen, Ava, but I guess even James chose me over you in the end." This might sound super cruel, but I felt like laughing in her face. Anna was right in her assumption. Anyone else would be utterly devastated in these circumstances. Having your own twin sister sleep with your husband does mess you up mentally. However, I felt none of those emotions. No, it wasn't shock or denial. It was entirely something else. I didn't feel anything but amused at the situation. Meanwhile, my husband James almost fainted on the living room floor from surprise. His eyes bulged out and he looked like he was ready to shout at Anna. But before he could say anything, I decided to add a little more drama. Trust me, I had my reasons for it. I gave Anna a sad look and said, "What, you slept with my husband, Anna? How could you do this to me? You stole all my boyfriends in school and now decided to run after my husband. What kind of an evil twin does that?" "Oh, come on, Ava. It's not my fault that men prefer me over you. I always knew that I was the better twin. After all, I am more beautiful than you. Even if we look almost alike, I am still the better one. Your own husband proved it yesterday." "What the hell are you talking about, Anna? I didn't freaking sleep with you. I slept with my wife here. It wasn't you last night. I wouldn't touch you with a 10-foot pole. When did this even happen?" "What are you saying, James? We hooked up at the party right before I took you home. Ava was already home by then, so no, it wasn't her you slept with. Why are you acting so innocent, James? Do you feel bad for Ava? She needs to know the truth. I even have pictures as proof." James and I were absolutely gobsmacked by what Anna said. This woman had seriously taken intimate pictures of her and my husband and showed them to us proudly on her phone. Again, I was disgusted but also mildly amused by the situation. James, on the other hand, wasn't amused at all. He realized something that came to my mind a lot later. He said, "Wait a damn minute, Anna. Did you sleep with me while I was drunk like a fish? Are you kidding me? This is assault." Now, you don't have to twist things just because you want to protect Ava from the truth. You slept with me and enjoyed it, James. Ava, you have seen the pictures. Don't you agree that I'm right? James, you need to tell Ava the truth instead of lying. "Ava, this is not true. Believe me, Ava, I did not do this. I didn't know that it was her. Hell, I don't even remember much of what happened after the party. There was no way I recognized her and gave my consent." James was begging and pleading with me to listen to him while Anna stood in the corner smirking. I pretended to be in distress to not raise any suspicions in Anna's mind. My marriage with James was already over, regardless of this situation with my sister, but my sister's karma wasn't here yet, and I didn't want to do anything to jinx that. Not that it would have mattered anyway. What was done, and Anna would be facing the consequences of her actions soon. Anna was oblivious to that. She said, "I'm so sorry, Ava. I can see that James wants to be in denial and continue this marriage with you. I wish you all the best. I don't want to come between your marriage, so I will forfeit my place. I will let you have James." "Shut up, Anna. I never wanted to sleep with you. You know very well what you have done, Anna. You assaulted me. You don't get to spin stories like that to destroy my marriage." "There's no use scolding her, James. Our marriage is over anyway. You can leave with Anna. I don't want you in this house anymore. I can't even look at you two right now. You know what, Anna? You won. You successfully stole my husband as well. Congratulations." Anna actually looked gleeful seeing me in distress. She also didn't care that she assaulted a person to one-up me and steal my husband. Anna saw me in distress, made her point that she was the best, and simply left for her place. Meanwhile, James was begging me to forgive him for entirely different reasons that only me and James knew. Anna wasn't aware that I would have divorced James anyway. I told James, "Look, James, you already knew that I was going to divorce you. We talked about this. I know you have cheated on me." "I swear I didn't knowingly sleep with your sister, Anna. I was too drunk and thought that maybe you were willing to give us a chance. Anna tricked me into this, Ava. Please believe me." "I do believe you, James. All I did in front of Anna was a show. I didn't want her to know that I didn't care anymore. Let her have some fun tormenting me before she realizes how badly she messed up." James didn't say anything and thought for a while. He couldn't understand what I was talking about, but when he did, he was surprised that my mind worked so fast. He said, "I see what you're trying to do. I understand it completely, but I am not lying to you, Ava. I really thought you were giving me another chance." "Sorry, but there is no way in hell I'm staying with you. It doesn't matter whether you purposely slept with Anna or not. It's not about that. I am leaving you for what happened in the past." "I know you are leaving me because I cheated on you with someone else, and I contracted an STD from my mistress." "Yes, my husband did cheat on me, but with a different woman. Me and James were already on the verge of a divorce when Anna stupidly decided to trap him. What she didn't know was that not only did James cheat on me, but he also contracted a bad STD from his mistress. Don't worry, it wasn't the fatal kind, but it was something that she couldn't get rid of very easily. That is why I felt like laughing when Anna boasted about sleeping with him. I am not going to lie. I felt rather proud when James repeatedly told Anna that he would never sleep with her on purpose. I did feel bad for James because he was taken advantage of, and I decided to let him know that. You are right. After I found out about the cheating, there was no way I was staying. Your disease just made things worse. But I must say that what Anna did was despicable. Maybe you should do something about it. Actually, yes, I will file a report for assault. I was pretty intoxicated and I am sure she mixed something in my drink. I think I will go to the cops now and get it reported. There is no way I'm letting Anna get away with this. That would be a wise decision. I suggest you get her reported right away. Don't give her time to twist the facts. So I did actively encourage James to go to the cops. Anna was going to pay in more ways than one. She had no idea what fresh hell was waiting for her in the future. All I had to do was wait. Time wouldn't reveal everything to her. I wouldn't even have to move a finger. Karma would find her soon enough. Anna was arrested the very next day. James went to the friend to request CCTV tapes of his house to take it to the cops. The footage clearly showed Anna mixing something in James's drink and then taking him to a room while he was super intoxicated. James also clearly called her my name when talking to her. With all the evidence, Anna was immediately arrested from her freaking office in front of everyone. Everyone in her place of work now knew that Anna was a criminal. She was fired the same day, of course. She made bail and got out of prison since she had some money to her name. But her troubles weren't going to end anytime soon. It took her a week to call me crying. She said, "Ava, you need to help me. I need some money. I had to put my entire savings to make bail. On top of that, I found out yesterday that I got an STD. The treatment is expensive, Ava. It will land me in debt. I think I got the STD from James." No can do, Anna. There is no way in hell I would help you out in my life ever again. You are dead to me already. How can you be so selfish, Ava? You need to help me. Despite everything, I decided to tell you about the STD so that you can get tested as well. You should at least be thankful for that and help me out. Hearing this, I immediately started to laugh. Yes, I know it's rude to laugh at people when they are going through a difficult phase in life, but Anna has created this mess for herself and was fully responsible for what was happening to her. I had no reason to feel pity or sympathy for her when she tried to nuke my marriage and trap my husband. Now, she was back begging for help. I said, "Who are you fooling, Anna? You are not telling me about your disease because you are a good woman. You told me about it because you thought this would guilt me into helping you. Sorry to burst your bubble, but it won't work. I still don't help trash." How dare you laugh at me, Ava? How can you be so cruel? You were just mad and jealous that your husband chose me over you. You were mad that I stole your man. That's why you are not helping me. God, Anna, are you delusional or something? My husband called the cops on you. And no, you didn't steal anything. I was already going to divorce him because he cheated on me with someone else. And that's how he contracted the disease. Yes, I knew about it a long time ago. My words stunned Anna into silence. She finally realized how badly she had messed up. She had landed in her own trap. Instead of hurting me or breaking up my marriage, she nuked her life instead. I heard silence on the phone before Anna burst into tears again. She said, "I'm sorry for doing this, Ava. I had no idea that everything would backfire on me so badly. Yes, your husband thought that I was you. Yes, I trapped him. I was always jealous of you, and that's why I did it. But my tears are genuine, Ava. If you don't help me out, I will go to jail and drown in debt. And that will be exactly what you deserve. All these years, I didn't cut you out of my life because you were the only family left for me. I helped you out whenever you needed and looked past everything you have done to humiliate and hurt me. But I won't be a doormat anymore. I won't help you out." Ava, please don't say that. I'm still your family. I'm so sorry for everything, Ava. I messed up and now I'm already paying a huge price for it. Please, Ava, don't abandon me. I have no one else. Please. Anna kept crying and begging me for forgiveness. I could understand why. I knew her finances well enough, and I also knew that she was now broke as shit. Plus, James was going to pursue the case till she went to jail. He was adamant that he wanted her to pay, and I support his decision completely. With lawyer fees, court fees, and medical bills, Anna would be down in a pit of debt. I highly doubt the debt would vanish even after she gets out of jail. I will not lie to you guys, it was pathetic hearing Anna cry, but I didn't feel any sympathy for her at all. Years of abuse and hurt destroyed any feelings I had for Anna. She felt like a stranger to me. I listened to her whine and cry for a bit before hanging up. I did tell her I didn't want her contacting me again. I blocked her from all places after sending her a message that I didn't want her to contact me. I also said that if she continued to harass me, I would file for harassment. I guess the threat of another lawsuit shut her up. So let me tell you what happened in the next few months. I filed for divorce from James as promised. He was actually civil about everything, even though he was sad about the divorce. I did give him some credit because he had confessed about his affair to me to avoid giving me the STD. Still, I didn't have any feelings left for him to stay in the marriage. Since James is rich, I got a hefty settlement. I took that opportunity to move states to be away from all the drama. Last I heard about Anna, she is looking at jail time. Since she used drugs to trap James, she is being charged with a level 1 felony. She will be in jail for a while. I have already made up my mind not to get in touch with her again. I am finally starting my life afresh and want to move on from all the things that were toxic in my life so far. I hope you guys wish me luck so that I never have to be in this situation again. Hi there, I'm Scarlett, and I hail from the heart of Dallas, Texas. I'm a 35-year-old woman. I have got a story to tell, so grab a seat and let me take you on a little journey through my life. It all began when I was 25, living the Dallas dream. I'm a Texas gal, born and bred, and back then, I was just your regular gal working at a local design firm. Life was pretty sweet, but then one day, while I was sipping on my go-to caramel latte at this cozy cafe near work, I crossed paths with what I thought was destiny. I met Nick, my husband, and let me tell you, he was one charming dude. He had just rolled into Dallas after wrapping up college in New York. This guy had a smile that could make ice cream melt in a snowstorm. We got to talking, and before we knew it, we were head over heels. We would chat for hours about everything under the sun, our dreams, our lives, and it felt like we had known each other forever. Love was in the air. A few years later, under the Texas sky, we made it official, tying the knot in a beautiful, intimate ceremony. Just a year after our sweet wedding day, our little Rex showed up. He was a bundle of joy with big blue eyes and the most infectious giggle you would ever hear. Our family was complete and life was perfect. My little Rex is 7 years old. He is a real firecracker, full of life and curiosity about the world. Watching him grow and explore life has been the greatest joy of my life. A year ago, I walked in on a scene that I had never thought I would witness. It was a devastating revelation. My husband, Nick, was cheating on me with none other than Bella, his best friend from college. You know, I always thought Bella was harmless. She had been around since forever, and there were moments when I questioned her proximity to Nick. But Nick, ever the smooth talker, used to tell me she was like a sister to him. I took Nick at his word, for my trust in him was unshakable, and I believed that our bond was equally strong. Bella would visit Nick from time to time, flying in for what Nick portrayed as innocent reunions. It struck me as odd, but I did not want to appear paranoid or irrational. I told myself they were merely best friends catching up. Then came that fateful day when I discovered the truth. Bella had flown into town for the weekend, and she was insistent about babysitting Rex while I enjoyed a much-needed outing with my friends. I decided to catch a movie and perhaps do some shopping, relishing the rare chance to unwind. Nick told me that he was called into his office on a Saturday, so he had no choice but to go there. My friends and I did watch the movie, though our shopping plan had been cancelled due to an unexpected change in one of my friends' schedules. I returned home a lot earlier than anticipated. As I walked into the house, a chill ran down my spine and my heart sank. There, right in front of me, was a sight I could never have imagined. Nick and Bella were kissing each other, and they both were all over the couch. "What the hell is happening here?" "Scarlett, what are you doing here? You were supposed to be here later." "Huh? Are you serious? This is my home, not yours. Also, that is my husband and not yours." Scarlett, please, babe, this is not what it seems to be. I can explain. I don't need your explanation. How long has this been going on for? Nick looked at me in the eye and told me the truth. Well, a while. How much is a while? Don't get angry, Scarlett. It was when you were pregnant with Rex. But it was an on and off thing, I promise. Since I was pregnant? You were cheating on me while I was pregnant with our son? It has been 7 years. I am disgusted by you, Nick. Scarlett, we never meant for it to last this long, but we love each other. Love? I can't believe this. And where is Rex? Where is our son while all this is happening? I put him to bed earlier. I lied about the office call. You put our child to bed and you were doing this while he was in the next room? Scarlett, I know I messed up, but it was not like that. I never wanted to hurt you or Rex. Scarlett, please believe us. We are so sorry. Yes, I'm sorry, darling. I'll do anything in the world to make it up to you. Sorry? Sorry does not fix this. You have betrayed everything we had. Our family, our love, everything. And you, Bella? I let you into my house without ever questioning you, and you do this. You are nothing but a homewrecker. Scarlett, please, we need to figure this out. I love you and I don't want to lose our family. Love does not involve cheating. I need some time to think about this. I will leave. Oh, you surely will. Bella left in a hurry, and Nick decided to sleep in a different room for a week. The tension was suffocating and the silence was deafening. I was absolutely shaken. It was incredibly difficult to come to terms with what had happened. This was beyond disgusting. Nick, the man I had loved and trusted, had turned out to be a pathetic excuse for a husband. The ultimate betrayal was staring me in the face. For a week, we didn't talk. It was all cold shoulders and distant glances. The house felt emptier than ever, even though we were all under the same roof. I could not continue living like this, torn between the love I had for my son and the anger I had for my husband. So, after a week of soul-searching and sleepless nights, I made a decision. I had to choose my own well-being and that of my son over a man who had deceived me in the worst possible way. Nick, we need to talk. Scarlett, I am again very sorry for what happened. Save your apologies. I've made my decision. I want a divorce. Live here in Dallas or go to New York to be with the love of your life. I already know your office has a branch in New York City. You are out of this house. Ask them for a transfer or something. I do not care. I want you out. Scarlett, please let us not rush into this. I messed up, but I love you. Messed up? For 7 whole years? It never even occurred to you what you were doing to our family? It is not like that, Scarlett. Bella and I, we never meant for this to happen. But it did, Nick. You chose to betray me, your wife, with your so-called friend. You two love each other, you say? So go spend your lives together. I don't care about you anymore. Scarlett, please don't do this. I'm begging you. You lie at the lowest tier of the pyramid, Nick. You are a disgusting man. You don't deserve to be in this house any longer. What about Rex? He is staying with me, obviously, until the court decides what's going to happen. Scarlett, I don't want to lose my son. You should have thought about that before you made your choices, Nick. You have 1 week to figure out your situation and leave this house. Within a week, Nick decided to leave our city and live with Bella in New York. He transferred offices to be with her. I couldn't believe the audacity of Nick. After all that had happened, the way he moved on so quickly was baffling to me. The day Nick was leaving, he decided to have a little chat with Rex. Hey, champ, I need to talk to you. Daddy, what's up? Well, buddy, I have to go away for work. It is a special project, and I don't know how long it'll take. But why, Daddy? Sometimes grown-ups have to do things they don't want to. How long will you be gone, Daddy? I don't know, buddy. Goodbye. The first month without Nick was like a roller coaster of emotions. On one hand, it felt liberating to have the freedom to set our own routines without the cloud of his betrayal hanging over us. But on the other hand, there was a constant sadness knowing that Rex was growing up without his dad around. As a mom, I felt this immense responsibility to make sure Rex was okay during this adjustment. We created our own little world, filling it with new experiences to replace the gap that Nick had left. One of the toughest things I had to do during this time was contact a lawyer and file for divorce. It was a heart-wrenching process, but it was a necessary step to move forward. The pain was unbearable. Then, sometime later, I received a phone call from Nick. It was the very first time we had spoken since he left, and his voice sounded different, as if he had changed significantly. Scarlett, it's been a while, hasn't it? I just wanted to let you know that Bella and I are doing really well. We are happier than ever. Good for you, Nick. You know, Scarlett, I've realized that you were not quite the woman I needed. You didn't understand me as Bella does. Well, I'm glad Bella is the woman you need. So, did you just call me to insult me like that? So, here's the reason I called. I'm in Dallas and I want to pick up Rex. I miss him. 1 month has gone by and no phone calls. You did not even pick up any of Rex's calls, and now all of a sudden you miss your son? We are not divorced yet, and Rex belongs to both of us equally. I'm taking him to New York City with me for a week. It will be good for him. I think it is essential for Rex to spend some quality time with his father. It will help him adjust to the changes. I understand that, Nick, but we should work out a proper arrangement. We do not want to disrupt Rex's routine or create confusion. Scarlett, I'm his father. I know what's best for him. I already bought his plane ticket. This is happening. I will drop by later tonight. Just pack a bag for him, will you? Sure. After my talk with Nick, I had to shift gears and prepare Rex for his week with his dad. So I packed a bag for him. You know, the essentials, his favorite toys, clothes, and that worn-out stuffed bear he can't sleep without. I wanted Rex to feel at home wherever he was. Then came the heart-to-heart talk. I sat him down and tried to make it as light as possible. I told him he was going on an adventure in New York City with his dad, and Bella would be there too. Oh, the innocence. And then I gave him his tablet and told him I would contact him about it. He was nervous and excited at the same time. Later that night, Nick and Bella came to pick Rex up. I watched them from the window as their car pulled up. Bella, I did not know you'd be here too. Well, Scarlett, you should have expected that. Bella and I are together now. Yeah, Scarlett, we are very much together. Look, this is not the time or place. I can't believe he'll be living with you and Bella. You better believe it. And one more thing, Nick. When you are with Rex, please don't tell him what's really going on between you and Bella. Don't put any ideas into his head. He's just a kid and he doesn't need to be caught up in all of this. You are always overthinking things, Scarlett. I'm just protecting my son. As they left, I was left alone with my thoughts. Life had been happening so fast with so many changes in just a couple of months. It was hard to catch up, you know. I could not help but think about Rex staying with Nick and Bella, especially Bella. Would he be confused about why his daddy was living with another woman? It was all so overwhelming. This was the first time Rex had been away from me for an extended period, and it made me a bit anxious. I knew he would be in good hands with his father, but I couldn't help but worry about how all these changes were affecting my little boy. Thankfully, I had a solid support system. My friends and parents were there for me, providing comfort and a listening ear when I needed it. I was incredibly grateful for them, and they helped me navigate the emotional roller coaster that was my life at that moment. For the next 4 days, I made it a point to video call Rex every day. Each time he picked up, it was like a little ray of sunshine. Sometimes he was out in the park with his dad, and on one memorable occasion they were at Coney Island, riding all those funfair rides. Rex seemed so happy, and that was a relief. Bella was often there with them, and it was hard to see her interacting with my son. The pain was still fresh. On the 5th night of Rex's stay, when I video called him, my wildest nightmare came true. "Hey, champ, how was your day? What did you do? I've missed you." "We went to a museum, Mom. It was so cool. I wish you could have been there." "That sounds fun. Where is your dad, by the way?" "He's not home, Mom." "Oh, he's not? It is quite late, so you must be with Bella, right?" "No, Mom. I'm home all alone." "Wait, what? Is there a babysitter with you?" "No, there's no babysitter, Mom." "Rex, it is 10 at night. Did you eat something?" "Dad said he would get pizza on his way back home, but he's not back yet." "Hold on a minute, sweetheart. I'll talk to your dad and find out what's going on." I was mad, furious even, at Nick. How could he leave Rex all alone? It was irresponsible and, quite frankly, unacceptable. My concern grew as I tried calling both Nick and Bella, but neither of them was picking up. It was as if the universe had conspired to send me into a panic. Desperation began to set in. I called Rex back, hoping to hear his little voice on the other end, but there was no answer. My heart pounded in my chest and fear gripped me like a vice. I could not help but let my mind wander to all the worst-case scenarios. Had something happened to them? Was Rex okay? My thoughts were racing a mile a minute, and all I wanted was to hear my son's voice, to know that he was safe and sound. I called all three of them again and again, but there was still no answer. At that moment, I knew I had to take matters into my own hands. Desperation drove me to pick up the phone and call Jordan, a close friend who worked in the airline industry. I explained the situation to him, the urgency of it all. Without hesitation, he assured me that he'd do whatever he could to help. I had to get to New York, to my son, as quickly as possible. Jordan worked his magic, arranging the earliest flights possible. The flight was scheduled for 4 in the morning, and the hours leading up to it were the longest and most agonizing I had ever experienced. At 3 a.m., I could not wait any longer. I knew I had to get to New York as soon as possible to find out what was going on and to make sure Rex was safe. I left for the airport in a hurry. As I sat there on the plane, I couldn't stop the tears from flowing, my heart pounding with panic and fear. The seat felt like a prison, the minutes stretching into hours. I knew where Bella's apartment was, having been there once during a visit, but finding my way there at that hour was a challenge, and the dark, quiet streets of New York City only added to my sense of urgency. It was 9 in the morning when I finally reached Bella's apartment. Exhausted, frantic, and terrified, I stood outside her door, my heart pounding. My knuckles hit the door in a hurried rhythm, each sound feeling like an eternity as I waited for someone to answer. Rex finally answered the door. It seemed like he had just woken up. I hugged him and held on to him, crying, "Rex, I'm so glad you're okay. I was so worried." "I was asleep, Mom." "Thank God you locked the door from the inside." "Dad told me to." "Rex, are Dad and Bella still not back yet?" "No, Mom, they're not here." "Well, sweetie, Mommy is first going to make you a quick snack and then pack your bags. You are coming back with me." I stayed at Bella's apartment with Rex until 1 in the afternoon. The flight back home wasn't scheduled until 3, and there was no sign of Nick and Bella. With each passing minute, my fury grew, and I could have throttled them both with my bare hands for their irresponsibility. I couldn't fathom how they could leave a 7-year-old child all alone and not have the decency to communicate with me. God only knows where they were, what they were doing, or why they had left my son unattended. I just wanted to get back to Dallas. We arrived back at our home in Dallas around 8 in the evening, and I could not help but feel a sense of relief wash over me. Still, there was no word from Nick. I had so many questions and so much anger, and a part of me was also worried for him. Then, after having takeout for dinner, I dialed Nick again, and this time he picked up. But this time, I was not letting him off the hook easy. "Hey, how's it going?" "I'm okay. It's been quite a day. Where have you been?" "I just got around to listening to your voicemails. You sounded concerned about Rex last night." "Yeah, I tried to reach out to him, but he was not responding yet. So, where is our son?" "Well, yeah, I noticed you called last night and this morning. We had a lovely pizza night, watched a movie, called it a night early, and today, we've been out all day." "That is all well and good, but where's Rex right now? I really want to talk to him. He's not answering my video calls on his tablet." "Rex is here with me, actually. We're having a great time playing together." "Oh, are you? Hold up a minute." I handed over the phone to Rex and put it on speaker. "Hey, Daddy." "Oh my God, Rex, hey buddy, how did you get there?" "Mommy came to Bella's house in the morning and took me home." "Rex, I'm really sorry for leaving you alone and not coming back last night. Give the phone to your mom." "Rex, honey, why don't you go and play?" "Thank God he's with you. Bella and I were just about to go to the cops. Listen, I can explain." "Nick, do you have any idea how worried I was? You left Rex alone overnight. I couldn't reach either of you. You didn't even bother to call a babysitter to watch Rex. What if something bad had happened? And on top of all that, you just lied to me." "Scarlett, I'm sorry. We lost track of time. We were out partying with a few friends." "Partying? You left our son alone to party?" "It wasn't planned. We had a few drinks and it got out of hand. Then our phones died and we couldn't contact anyone. We were so hungover we woke up literally in the evening." "You just vanished. Do you know how irresponsible is that? You know, this isn't the first time something like this has happened, right?" "I know, Scarlett. It was a terrible lapse in judgment. We should have been more responsible." "And you were hungover for what, the whole day? You decide to pick up my phone now? Weren't you a little bit worried about our son?" "Like I said, the drinking got a bit out of hand." "Nick, there is no excuse for the danger you put our son into. You left our child alone, scared and worried. You will pay for this." "Oh, you're threatening me? Blaming me for having a little fun? No wonder you're all alone and sad." "Enough, Nick. I will make sure I get full custody of Rex." "Oh, just keep dreaming." Little did Nick know that during our conversation I had been recording every word, capturing his excuses and apologies. I knew I needed evidence, and it was clear that this situation had spiraled out of control. After that day, I immediately contacted my lawyer to discuss the best course of action. I told him about how I wanted the full custody of Rex, and I had all the evidence I needed to prove the kind of dad Nick was. The evidence I had gathered painted a grim picture of Nick's actions, and the court took the matter seriously. The judge made it clear that despite his regret, Nick's actions were a clear breach of parental responsibility. I fought fiercely for my son's well-being, and the court recognized that Rex's best interests were my top priority. In the end, I was granted full custody of Rex, while Nick was given limited visitation rights. It has been 6 months since the divorce, and I've started moving on. I'm even seeing someone new. But let's get one thing straight. Rex is my number one. Always has been and always will be. Nick, well, he's pretty mad about the whole divorce thing. But then, out of the blue today, Nick called me up sounding all desperate and regretful. He drops a news on me. Bella cheated on him. Talk about a plot twist. He wanted me to take him back. Ha ha, what a joke. Well, They say what goes around comes around. And today, it seems like life's giving Nick a little taste of his own medicine. Hey there, I'm Izzy and I'm 28 years old. I just gave birth to my beautiful baby boy, and at the same time I decided to divorce my husband. It was a pretty painful time, but I can say that I'm gradually healing with every day that passes. I want to share my story because it's a good way for me to see just how strong I have become. To start with, Dan and I met 5 years ago because of my coworker. She and I are pretty close friends to date, and one day I was just telling her about how I missed being in a relationship. She then set me up with one of her good friends who was also looking for a relationship. Dan and I met at this cafe and we ended up actually having a great time. He had the same sense of humor as me and he was very chivalrous. We ended up going on a drive after the date, and we also discovered that we enjoyed the same kinds of music. Safe to say that one date led to many, many more dates where we continued to learn about the many more things we had in common. I truly believed that I had found the perfect man for me. I was never big on marriage, but when I was with Dan, I knew that I wanted to marry him. Yes, he was so good that I changed my views on something as big as marriage. We dated for about 1.5 years before moving in. Moving in with him only further solidified my want to marry him because he was so adaptable. Another year passed and Dan proposed to me at the cafe where we had our first date at. I was over the moon. After we got married, I was ecstatic to spend the rest of my life with him. We enjoyed our time together and traveled quite a bit. We both had good jobs that allowed us to live more than comfortably. It helped that we didn't have kids. But that changed pretty quickly because Dan wanted us to have kids. I guess we should have talked about kids before getting married because I wasn't planning on having any. I have a history with PCOD and I knew that having a child would be a painful ordeal. But Dan kept insisting on trying. Okay, think about how awesome it would be to raise our kids. I mean, you get to shape an entire person. I completely agree that it would be amazing to do that, but I don't think pregnancy is something I want to go through. It's a life-changing experience and I don't even know how my body will handle it. We have more than enough money to deal with every treatment and medication required. I promise that I'll make it super easy for you. I don't doubt that you'll make it easy. I mean, why do I even need any of the treatments and medicines if I don't get pregnant? Why do I even need to get pregnant for us to have a child? Why can't we adopt or even consider surrogacy? No, I want a child that is mine and I don't want some random lady carrying our child for us. Please, Izzy, this will be the ultimate culmination of our love. I'll think about it, okay? I really didn't want it, but Dan just got more insistent with time. Eventually we went to the OB/GYN and after a bunch of tests, the doctor told me that it would be possible and safe for me to carry a child. So with that, we began trying. It took a little while, but I did get pregnant. My pregnancy was pretty hard throughout. I was in constant pain and I was always tired. At the beginning stages of my pregnancy, it was bearable. I could still go out and about with just a little more effort and tolerance. But as I got further along in my pregnancy, I found it harder and harder to move around out of the house. Don't get me wrong, I still walked around our house, but that was the extent of it. I relied completely on Dan. I remember feeling bad that Dan was responsible for all the chores around the house, but at the same time, I was literally incapable of helping him out. And it helped that Dan never complained. At some point, I realized that Dan was overworking himself, and if he continued, he was going to burn out. I didn't want that to happen, so after he had settled down in bed one night, I talked to him about having someone stay with us to help me out. How are you feeling? Good, just really tired. But what about you? Do you need me to get anything for you? No, I'm all right. In fact, that's what I wanted to talk to you about. I feel like I'm making you do too much work. Oh, honey, no. You're the one carrying a child. I mean, yeah, it's tiring, but I'm sure it's nothing like what you're experiencing right now. I agree, but I still want to make things a little easier for us. So I was thinking that we should have someone stay with us to help me out. Do you mean you want to hire someone or have family over? Whichever works best, I don't mind. Well, I was also trying to figure out a way to tell you this, but since you brought it up, I can say it now. Oh, what is it? My mom has been hounding me about coming to stay over so she can take care of you. I don't know about that, Dan. I mean, look, how about we have her over for a month, and if you don't want her there, we can hire someone. Or we can have my mom come over. You know that your mother doesn't like me, Dan. I'm happy that she wants to be involved, but I'm not having the best pregnancy. I don't have the energy or the mental capacity to deal with her antics. I know, but letting her stay with us for 1 month will also get her off my back. I kid you not, I've received a phone call from her every single day at the same time for the past 2 months. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to stress you out. I'm sorry, but dealing with her hasn't exactly been the easiest. Oh, you poor thing. I can imagine what she was like on the phone when you kept refusing to give in to her request. Okay, we'll let her stay here for a month. Not a day longer than that, though. Of course, I'll make sure of it. Dan's mom, Polly, and I didn't exactly have the best relationship. From the time we met, back when Dan and I were dating, she's been pretty hostile and aggressive with me. She has never failed to make me feel bad about myself. She would constantly make comments about my weight, my appearance, my personality. When we got married, her behavior only got worse. When she found out that I would continue to work after getting married, she lost her mind. She kept telling Dan about how I was being a disrespectful wife who didn't care about her husband. According to her, I should have stayed home and taken care of the house while waiting on my husband arm and foot. Of course, these are very outdated views, and I said so too. Of course, that led to her yelling at me for trying to brainwash her with modern, disgusting ideologies. Dan has tried his best to keep the peace between the two of us, although he's never really said anything against his mother. We used to have fights about it because I always felt like I was the one compromising, but he never ever asked her to make any compromise. But I ended up letting it go because I loved him and I didn't want to cause any problems with it. I did tell him that I would be actively avoiding his mother, and he could not change my mind about that. I guess he agreed with that because that meant less work for him to deal with. Polly and I have had the bare minimum conversations, but she did become a lot easier to deal with when I got pregnant. She believed that this pregnancy would force me to become the ideal housewife. I didn't want to start anything, so I didn't tell her that I planned to go back to work after I had the child. I was skeptical about her helping me out because even though she was nicer, it didn't mean that she wouldn't keep throwing insults my way. But I guess I also figured dealing with her for only a month would also make it easier for Dan, so I agreed. When Polly arrived, the first words out of her mouth were the state of the house. Ugh, look at the filth you guys are living in. Yeah, excuse the mess. I haven't had time or energy to clean up. You're the one cleaning up? What about Izzy? I'm currently heavily pregnant and I can barely stand, so Dan's helping me out, which I'm super grateful for. Who cares if you're grateful or not? My son isn't supposed to be working this hard for someone who does nothing but sit around and complain all day. Mom! No, you stay out of this. You've done enough for her. While I'm here, I'll whip her into shape. I really can't do much. Nonsense. I've been pregnant before and it wasn't that hard for me. Sure, but every woman experiences pregnancy differently. I'm glad you had an easy one, but I sure as hell am not. I'm so sorry that you have to deal with all this, Dan. Don't worry, I'm here now and you won't have to do a thing. I rolled my eyes at her but didn't say a word. I felt like Polly had a weird thing where she needed to prove that she was better than me for Dan, which was concerning. But it didn't affect my relationship with Dan, so I didn't really bother with it too much. The next few weeks were hell. Every time Polly did something around the house, she would make sure to tell Dan about it, while also telling him that all I did was sit and watch TV. Polly also never failed to yell at me for making up my struggles. She would keep telling me that I was just trying to get attention. I ignored it to the best of my abilities, but every once in a while I would retort back, and that would lead to a screaming match between the two of us. I tried to talk to Dan about it, but he would tell me to just bear with it for a little longer. This response was not really normal, but I did notice that Dan became a lot more distant. He would come back home from work and rush immediately to his mother's side. He barely bothered to check up on me unless I walked up to him. It bothered me, but I figured that I would just have to wait for the month to get over, and then I could get Dan back and we could have a discussion about what I had felt. But all of that came crashing down one night when over dinner, Polly and Dan told me that they had something to tell me. Tell her, Dan. Tell me what? So, Mom and I have been talking these past few weeks, and with the baby on its way, we realized that we won't get much time to spend together after. Plus, becoming a father has just made me so much more appreciative of her, so we've decided to go on a vacation together. Vacation? But Dan, I'm 7 months pregnant. I can't do much without help. How am I going to make it through? Look, we need bonding time together. You'll understand it when you become a mother. Dan, you absolutely can't go. I need you here. Babe, we'll be back in a month. You definitely won't give birth in that time. I'll be here just in time for the birth. No! How could you plan something like this without even telling me? Stop being a brat, Izzy. This trip is happening whether you like it or not. We're leaving tomorrow. What? How am I supposed to get any help in such a short time? Don't worry, I called your mom over. I just really need this time with my mom, okay? She's been doing so much for me, for us, and this will be a great time to show her my appreciation and bond with her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I took my dinner up to the guest bedroom and locked myself in there. I didn't want to see either of their faces. I just knew in my gut that the vacation was Polly's idea. The smirk she had on her face felt like a punch in the gut. Was that why Dan was being so distant? Because he was too busy planning a trip with his mother? How could he go on a trip when his wife was lying at home pregnant with his child? Even Polly, with all her outdated ideas, should not have been fine with the vacation happening at a time like that. I bet that she would not have been okay if her husband had gone on a trip without her when she was so pregnant. I cried myself to sleep that night, and when I woke up the next morning, the house was empty. There was a note on the bedroom door from Dan telling me that they had left and would be back in a month. At that moment, all I felt was rage. I wanted to destroy all of Dan's things. or at least cause some havoc for him to come back and deal with, but I was way too tired and sore to do anything. In an hour, my mother showed up. I just cried in her arms for the better part of an hour. She silently comforted me. She didn't know why she was called over, and she asked me where Dan was. Is Dan at work? Nope. Where is he then? Is this why you guys called me to help you out? Kind of, but not really. We had called Polly over because she begged to be here. Uh-oh. Did she do something horrifying? Is that why you're crying so much? Yeah, well, she convinced Dan to go on a vacation with her. Right now? They just left this morning. And Dan agreed? What the hell? I'm so angry and so hurt, Mom. I don't know what to do with all these emotions. Oh, my poor baby. I'm so sorry they did that to you. When will they be back? A month. A month? Who the hell do they think they are? You're telling me that Dan went on vacation when you were in your last trimester? He promised to be back in time for the birth, so I guess he thinks that absolves him of any other responsibility. That man is going to get a good piece of my mind. Cry it all out, honey. I'll be here. I'll support you no matter what. I was glad that I had my mom there with me because I genuinely felt like I was going crazy. My mom was an immense help to me for the next week. She pampered me like crazy. No request was too much for her. I finally felt like I wasn't a burden in any way. My mom kept reassuring me that whatever I was feeling and going through both physically and mentally was valid, and she tried her best to make me comfortable. I had entered my 8th month by then, and I was mentally preparing to give birth. But then, all hell broke loose. My water broke about a week into my 8th month. I was in active labor pretty fast. My mom drove me to the ER as fast as she could. While in the car, I kept trying to get a hold of Dan and Polly, but neither of them picked up the calls. I was frustrated and in so much pain. All throughout the delivery, I cried because Dan wasn't there. But it still felt good to not be alone, as my mom was there holding my hand through the entire thing. After giving birth, I experienced a lot of blood loss and I fell unconscious. Thankfully, the baby was perfectly healthy, although I had to spend the next few days in the hospital recovering. While I was recovering, my mom and I had a long discussion about what I planned to do when Dan and Polly came back. My mom tried to contact them too after I had given birth, but they didn't pick up her calls either. Even though it broke my heart, I decided that the best course of action was a divorce. It also helped that I was really angry at that point. I didn't want my baby's father to be someone who would abandon them at important times. Dan had shown me his true colors, and there was no way I would let that slide. He would choose his mother over anyone else, including his wife and child. I let his behavior slide one too many times, but I guess that holding my child in my arms put everything into a different light for me. I never wanted my child to ever feel the abandonment I felt when I was giving birth, and I knew that I wanted to protect my baby boy. Thankfully, my mom had a lot of lawyer friends who specialized in divorces. She contacted one of them, and I began the filing process. I also asked for full custody of the child because there was no way in hell that I would let my child spend more than a couple of hours with Dan. Throughout the entire process, my mom was my rock. By the time I was discharged, the filing was done, and all that was left was for me to hand Dan the papers. There was still a couple of days until they came back, so my mom helped me pack all my things up while simultaneously preparing her place for the baby. We slowly adjusted to our new routines with the baby at hand, who thankfully was a very quiet baby who made barely any fuss. Finally, on the day that Dan arrived, I handed my baby to my mom and asked her to go back home. I didn't want Dan to see the child because He did not deserve that privilege. When Dan and Polly walked in through the door, they didn't even notice me sitting in the living room. They laughed and talked amongst themselves about all the fun they had on their vacation. When Dan finally noticed me, he looked surprised. "Oh, what are you doing here? Aren't you supposed to be resting?" "I think I'm pretty well rested." "So you did manage to survive without us. Told you she was making it all up for attention, Dan." I guess. Anyways, where's Tara? I'm sorry we missed all your calls. We decided to ignore everything related to home. "Oh, Mom's back at her place with the baby. She's coming back to pick me up right now." "The baby? What do you mean?" "I ended up giving birth at the time that you and Polly were away." "And you didn't think to tell us?" "I tried. My mom tried. You guys were way too busy bonding and ignoring everything home-related." Oh, honey, that's wonderful news. How is our baby? Is it a boy or a girl?" "It's a boy, and it's my baby." "What do you mean?" "You weren't there during the time of the birth, so you do not get father privileges." "I told you she'd do something because she was jealous." "Don't be that way." "Here, I don't want to be with you anymore." "Divorce?" "Come on, Izzy. It was just a vacation. I promise I'll be here from now on." "Well, you had bonding time with your mom, and now it's time for me to have bonding time with my son." "How can you do this? You can't rob my son of seeing his child." "I'm simply doing what you did with your son. Enjoy feeling what I felt." "Oh, there's my mom. If you're going to contest this divorce, I'll see you in court. Good luck explaining your absence and ignorance of your mother's bullying to the judge. Goodbye." Dan looked devastated, and that made me feel great. I finally felt free. I realized just how important it is to have someone support you, because leaving someone and feeling like you're free is not supposed to be normal. But I was excited about my new life. I was excited to raise my child and teach him all the things I've learned. My mom was happy that everything went well, and we did have a small celebration at home that night. Dan and Polly kept trying to call me, but I ignored them, which made me feel even more petty because I was doing exactly what they did to me. Dan did try to contest the divorce, and he fought for more custody, but in the end, everything went my way. My state is a lot more partial to mothers, so I was glad that I was given full custody while Dan only got visitation rights every other weekend for 4 hours, along with having to pay for child support. My mom has been helping me out, and I will forever be grateful for everything she did for me. She's been the best mother and grandmother. She's helped me also find a part-time job where I could work from home while taking care of the baby. Life has been going good so far. I don't care to look up Dan or Polly, but every once in a while I will get a phone call from them and I answer it if I feel like it. So far, Dan has been consistent with his child support payments, but if he cuts down on them, best believe I will have his visitation rights taken away as well. I can't wait to see where life will take me after this, but I'm sure that with the right people by my side, I'll be able to get through anything. So bring it on. Hello, I'm Kate. I'm a 35-year-old woman who just freed herself from her toxic husband. Yes, it was so bad that divorcing him was like attaining freedom. But let me introduce you to my ex-husband, Chris. Chris and I met on a blind date set up by a mutual friend. I will admit that Chris is a very attractive-looking man who has a very charming personality. Right off the bat, he ticked all the boxes that describe the ideal man for me. We shared a lot of interest, and conversation between us flowed effortlessly. We spent a good 6 months just going out on dates without ever making it official. We would take turns planning out the dates, and we always managed to do something fun and exciting. After we made our relationship official, we continued to do that, and after a year of dating, we moved in. It was around that time that I became aware of Chris's financial situation. He didn't make a lot of money, and even though I gave him advice on how to grow his career, he never seemed to take it. But I didn't think it was that bad considering he made a decent amount to support himself, and I was ready to carry over the rest of the costs. Anyway, after about 4 years of dating, we made a decision to get married, and a year later we decided to purchase a house. We used my name on the mortgage and deed because I had a much better credit score than Chris, and it was the best option back then. In hindsight, I am so grateful that Chris was on board with that decision. It was about 2 years into us being married that I noticed changes in Chris's behavior. He began to get a lot more demanding and stopped helping out around the house as much. Before, we equally split our chores, but then all that stopped because he always claimed to be too busy at work. I still let it all slide because I understood how tiring work could get. I picked up everything around the house, but at some point, it was tiring for me too. I talked to Chris about it, and he would promise to help around, but a week later we were back to square one. It was frustrating, but I let it go because I loved Chris and I wanted to be able to provide for him in every way that I could. Things remained that way for about another 3 to 4 years. Of course, our relationship did take a downfall when it came to going out or doing things for fun because I never really had the time or energy to. Even so, it was still surprising to find out that Chris was cheating on me. I first discovered my husband was having an affair when he had left his phone unlocked while he was in the shower. I didn't mean to snoop, but as I was going to put his phone to charge, I saw a notification on his phone that piqued my interest. The notification was a message from someone named Leah. She was asking Chris how long till he left his pathetic wife to go and meet her in the nearby motel. I was shocked and devastated. Never in a million years would I have thought that Chris was cheating on me. There was nothing in our marriage that indicated that he was cheating. Every night when he got back home from work, he greeted me with warmth and love. Our relationship had been going great and we rarely ever fought. So why had he been cheating on me? I wanted to cry and throw up all at the same time. I felt my world crumble and fall apart. At that moment, though, I decided that I had to put on a brave face, so I left Chris's phone that way and let the chat be open so when he came out of the shower and checked his phone, he would know that I knew about his affair. When Chris did come out, he saw the unlocked phone and the chats and immediately figured out that I knew. He tried to avoid talking about it, but I was not going to let that happen. You know I know about your affair. Let's talk about it. I don't think we should. Who is it? I'm sure you saw enough to know what her name is. When did it start? A year ago? Can we seriously not do this? Why did you start seeing her? Babe, please, let's not do this. Don't call me babe. Tell me. I don't know why I'm doing it, okay? I guess I just missed the thrill of dating someone who's on the same wavelength as me. So, I'm not on the same wavelength as you? Well, I wouldn't say that exactly. You've just become boring. Excuse me? I mean, you never want to go out, nor do you ever make any fun plans when we do go out. You're always tired, and we practically have no life in the bedroom either. You do realize that I'm always tired because I'm doing all the chores around the house and working. You've never once offered to help me out. Listen, that's just your duty as my wife. I told you to stay at home, but you refused to. That still shouldn't mean that you don't contribute to the house. I'm the man of the house. I get to do whatever I want. You get to do whatever you want, so you cheat on me? If that's what it takes to have some fun, then I will. I was hoping that we could talk about this and maybe start repairing our relationship, but clearly that is not going to happen. I don't think anything will change you being boring. I'm happy to stay married, but I will continue to see Leah. I need to be away from you for a while. I'm going to sleep in the other room. I couldn't bear to be in the same room as Chris the longer he spoke. It was clear that he was unapologetic. Aside from the fact that he didn't even want to talk about it, he made it abundantly clear to me that he did not view me as anything but a wife, whom he expected to do everything for him. Chris had never been one to have archaic views on gender roles, but there he was. I had a sneaking suspicion that it had to do with all these podcasts that he was listening to that involved a bunch of these men talking about how women have become too vocal and need to be put back in their place. It was sad to see Chris turn into one of those men, but it was equally heartbreaking to see him not even realize what he was turning into. I heard the main door open and shut shortly after. I went to the guest bedroom and I knew that Chris had left to meet his mistress. It was then that I finally broke down crying. I knew I couldn't spend the night all by myself. I was alone and hurting, and I needed someone to hold me. I called over my best friend, Cass. Cass heard me crying over the phone and came over in a heartbeat. She brought with her tubs of ice cream, and she held me while I cried for a long while. She didn't ask me what was wrong, but she just silently held me. Once I managed to calm myself down enough, I told her about what I had found out. Chris is cheating on me. What? Are you sure? Definitely. How do you know? His phone was unlocked, and I happened to see him get a message from a woman who asked him when he was leaving his pathetic wife to go and meet her. What the hell? Did you talk to him about it? Oh yeah, I did. He didn't want to talk about it, but I forced him to. Turns out he's been cheating on me for a year because I became too boring. Boring? What does he even mean by that? He thinks I'm too tired all the time and that I don't do anything fun with him because of that. Don't you do everything around here? Yeah, I do. Which he didn't think was a big deal because that was supposed to be my duty as a wife. Wow. All right then. His duty as the husband should have been to go serve his country, but here he is, cheating on his wife. Cass. I'm just saying that his argument is stupid. Did he even try to apologize? Not for a second. He just blamed it on me and went to spend the night with Leah. Good, because I swear if I saw him, I would have wrung his throat. But do you know what you want to do now? Not really. Chris said he didn't mind being married, but I definitely don't want that. Great. I'll help you with everything after that. Why don't you come stay with me until everything settles down? That would be amazing. Thanks a lot, Cass. I'll always have your back, Kate. We spent the rest of the night just relaxing and watching a bunch of our favorite movies. I didn't forget about what had happened, but I did manage to distract myself long enough. The next morning, Cass helped me pack a bunch of my things up to take over to her place. While at her place, I decided to make the horrible decision to look Leah up. I had access to Chris's social media on my phone, so I decided to do a little snooping in on who she was. I hadn't ever felt the urge to go through his social media because he never gave me a reason to do it. I found out that he had muted all notification from Leah's chat, which would explain why I never caught any wind of the affair until then. Anyways, it turned out that Leah was a co-worker with his company. Or, to be more precise, she worked under him. She was 25 years old, which made her a good 10 years younger than me and 12 years younger than Chris. That was enough to gross me out even more. If anything, that solidified my decision to get a divorce from him. but I needed to get my things in order before I filed for divorce. Cass and I discussed how we could get back at Chris because we were not going to let him off the hook so easily. The first thing I did was to take out all of the money that I had put into our joint account and put it into my personal account, which Chris had no access to. The next thing was to file for divorce. It took a couple of days to get things in order, and in those days, I heard nothing from Chris. It hurt a lot to think that Chris didn't even care to check on my well-being, but then again, what could I have expected from a man who saw no worth in me? I eventually needed to go back home to get some more of my things. When I got there, I saw Chris sitting on the couch. He saw me and walked over to me. "Where have you been?" "Why do I need to tell you about my whereabouts?" "Do you even know how worried I had been?" "And yet I didn't receive a single phone call from you. Don't try to play nice right now. Do you really have to be such a jerk right now?" "I'm sorry, but I only recently found out that my husband was cheating on me because he thought I was too boring for him, and he seemed very unapologetic about it. Excuse me for being rude." The sarcasm just never ends with you, huh? "I was just concerned about you, especially since you withdrew such a large amount from our joint account." "Yeah, I took it because I put all that into the account. Why should I let you spend my money?" "Who do you think you are to do that? You will put that money back or what, Chris? You'll cheat on me with another woman? I don't care." "No, I'll kick you out. I'll move in with Leah and I'll have my sister move in here." That's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. "Well, try me if you want. Put that money back in 2 hours or everything I said will happen by tomorrow." I didn't say another word to him after that. I just went to our room, packed up the rest of my clothes and other things, and made my way back to Cass's place. Once there, I told her all about my encounter with Chris. She was rightfully angry with me, and she told me that we needed to contact a lawyer. Cass had a friend who was a lawyer, and we asked him for advice. He asked whose name the house was under, and I said mine. Both the mortgage and the house title had only my name on it. I was the only one who paid the mortgage. It happened to be that way because I worked in a very niche field that paid a lot of good money. I easily made 3 times more than Chris, and we figured that was the best way to go about getting a house. Since that was the case, the house was mine. Everything that the house required was bought by me. The lawyer said that if we divorced, the house would be under my name anyway, so it wouldn't matter. And if Chris's sister moved in, all I had to do was submit an eviction notice to her, considering she did not have my consent to live there. I felt a breath of relief upon hearing that nothing could harm me in any way. True to his word, Chris called me the next morning to tell me that his sister had moved in because I hadn't deposited the money back into our account. I didn't say much to him, which angered him, and he hung up the phone. Upon the lawyer's advice, I also made sure to record every conversation I had with Chris, as anything could be used as evidence if needed. All that was left to do was follow my plans of action. I say plans because there were 2 ways of how things could have played out. Either I hand Chris's sister, Candy, the eviction notice, and she does or she does not move out, and I sue her. Either way, I was winning. I knew that the latter would end up happening, though, because Candy and I didn't gel well together. Candy always harbored this hatred for me. She always tried to one-up me in everything, to the point where if she knew I was going to do or wear something, she would do or wear the same thing, but more extravagantly, so she would have all eyes on her. She even tried to sabotage Chris and I's wedding that day. We had gotten into a large number of fights over the years, which resulted in me going low contact with her. I only ever interacted with her because Chris begged me to. He was very overprotective of her and always spoiled her senselessly. Of course, when she found out about all the things I had achieved, she was furious and upset that she wouldn't be able to upstage me in that area. So she took to trying to steal things from me whenever she did come over. Many times I would find a bunch of my expensive clothes, shoes, and even skincare products missing right after she came over. Chris would beg me to not say anything because Candy did live rather frugally, and he thought that her taking some things was just her way of having at least some lavish things. I didn't agree with that thought process, but I let it go. That only made things worse, so I banned her from coming over. That didn't make either Chris or Candy happy, but Chris couldn't stop me because I had told him just how much she had actually stolen from me. And he knew that Candy had done way more damage than what was repairable. So when she moved into my house, she called me to gloat about it. "Hello, Kate. What do you want? Remember how you banned me from coming over?" "Yes, because you stole thousands of dollars worth of things from me specifically." "Who cares about that? Guess where I am right now?" "Chris told me you moved in." "That's right. I have this huge and glorious house all to myself, something you don't have." "I think I still do have the house. I've already sent an eviction notice your way, and I'm giving you 3 days to move out." "Ha! An eviction notice? From you? Like I'll follow through on it. This is my brother's house. He told me I can stay here, so I will." "It's really not his house." Yeah. Marital property or whatnot, but he has all the power, and he decided this was the best thing to do." "That doesn't mean—" "Gosh, you really can't stop talking, can you? I see why my brother chose another woman. Ugh." "Well, okay. I have nothing more to say. Goodbye." I hung up the phone, but not before hearing Candy cackle on the other end. Well, if she didn't get out of there in 3 days, I was going to take her to court, and I was all lawyered up. Candy must have told Chris about our call because an hour after I had hung up the call on Candy, he yelled at me for having the audacity to send her an eviction notice, but much like the previous time we were on call, I said nothing. Within the next 3 days, 2 things happened. The first was that I had the divorce papers delivered to Chris, and he decided that he wanted to contest it. The second was that Candy still hadn't moved, so I had a court summons sent to her. Legally speaking, she was a squatter, and she was shocked to find out that the house was in my name and not her precious brother's. I was there when she got the summons, and she yelled at me for tricking her. I told her that I did no such thing. I had given her ample time, and I had warned her to move out, but she refused to listen. She had to face the consequences of her actions. In court, my lawyer presented all the evidence, the eviction notice, and recordings of phone calls that showed me telling Candy to move out, and her refusing to do so. In my state, squatting is taken rather seriously, so Candy was charged with a Class A misdemeanor and was given a fine of $500 to pay. The look of utter defeat and humiliation on her face was very satisfying to see. After years of holding back, to see it all culminate to this made the wait worth it. Chris and Candy approached me after things had settled down with Candy. They came over to Cass's house to hound me for doing what I did. "How could you do that to my little sister?" "Your little sister has been terrorizing my life for the past few years, and I shut that down in the best way possible. A decision you agreed with. Yet the second I grew a spine and told you no, you went right back and pulled her into this. That's your fault." "I only did that because she had nowhere else to go. She got evicted and I was doing her a favor." "So the house suddenly became an option because we were going to separate? If we weren't, would you have snuck her in?" Well, save it, Chris. I don't want to hear anything more from you. I'll just see you in court." "How is the house even in your name?" "Your brother's name isn't on any of the documents, and I have been the one paying off the mortgage along with other repairs meticulously for the past 5 years. No matter how much your brother contests it in court, he won't get any ownership of the house. All he'll get is a much lighter wallet." "You set him up. I just know you did." "I didn't do anything. Your brother firmly believes in being the man of the house, so he should have taken up all the roles that I did, but he would much rather me do all the hard work while he reaped the benefits. Thank God that this is no longer going to be a problem for me. Goodbye, you two. I slammed the door in their face, and that was that. Over the next few weeks, Chris decided that since he wasn't going to get the house, he was going to fight over every single possession that we had, down to our dessert spoon.